Yo, what's going on, guys? Chris Bonner here, Overtime Athletes. What I wanted to do today is basically give you the particular speed warm-up that I perform with my athletes when we actually perform 2 days of speed. Usually, typically, I'll break it down into top speed and acceleration. So I usually typically go through a series of warm-up, and then I go into some mechanical drills, or mechanics, if you will. And what I wanted to do was share with you each component or each movement that I perform in that warm-up and why I perform them. Cool, so this sprinter's dynamic warm-up, we're gonna go ahead and perform for 10 yards. Some of you out of the country, 10 meters is just fine. What we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be performing one movement down and essentially a different or more dynamic component of that movement back. So the first one that we're gonna start off with is just gonna be a simple high knee leg tuck, but it's more of a stretch. So I really want you focusing on keeping thoracic extension, not tucking the butt under, and pulling that knee all the way up to the chest as high as you can, and stepping through every single repetition. Good. As soon as you get to the 10-yard marker, we're gonna come back with a high knee run. So I want good form here. I want you getting the high, obviously the knee high. I want the ankle cocked the entire time, pumping your arms just like you should when you're sprinting, keeping it 90 to 90. Cool, the next one is just gonna be a hurdler stretch. I'm just going to go ahead and grab my foot. Really what I'm focusing on is pushing that hip out the entire time. If you need a little more balance, raise that other arm or opposite arm staying straight out, and go ahead and move into the next one. Coming back, we're just gonna do a butt kick run. So essentially it's very similar to the stretch we just performed, but I want you keeping your ankle cocked. I want a lot of steps. I often cue my athletes, think 1,000 steps in 10 yards, really to get those hamstrings firing. Same thing with the arm pump though. I want you to make sure you're pumping your arms and 90 degrees at the elbows. Next one's just gonna be a hip stretch. It's gonna be figure 4. So what I want you to do, keeping the athlete upright, I want you to grab your ankle by the bottom of the foot and really pull to your belly button. Common mistake here is a lot of athletes wanna pull their chest down to their foot. Really what I want you to do is stay erect and pull that leg up to your belly button as high as you possibly can. Step through, all the way down 10 yards. Next thing we're gonna do is just a single leg march. I'm just gonna keep the athlete with a straight or a stiff knee or stiff leg, if you will, and we're kicking up, going opposite hand to opposite foot and trying to get a little higher every single time. Next one we have is just a big lunge. I often tell my athletes, don't look at this as an actual exercise. Think of this as an actual dynamic stretch. So sometimes the reason why I say that is because I want them to take a huge step and I want them to really push that hip into the ground. If they need to, they can reach that hand over and really push that hip here and really stretch to each side, moving right into the next one. Remember, this is dynamic, so I'm always constantly having them move. It's not necessarily spending time in that stretch or statically, but if they do feel tighter on one side, pause there for a second if you need to. And coming right back after 10 yards is just gonna go into a reverse lunge. Often what I tell them here is think of this as a balance and coordination type drill. So what I wanna do is I wanna eliminate that middle pivot step and I wanna go straight into the next step all the way down. Do this by tightening your core, almost like you're trying to show your abs off at the beach. Think of it here. So the next one, we're just gonna go straight into the lateral lunge. What I'm looking for here is a big wide step. Each time I wanna get a little bit wider. All I'm focusing on is driving that hip down and back, placing the stretch right here on the adductors, and then pushing and shifting to each side. Then I shake it off, have them come into the next step, a little bit wider, push, push. Same thing one more time. Coming back, they're gonna do waiter's bow, so I'm looking for upper hamstring stretch here. All I'm looking for is for that athlete to kick that leg out directly straight, pull that toe towards the chin. I want them to keep their back flat by basically sticking their hips backwards, if you will, anterior pelvic tilt. And then from here, I want them to reach down, back, and then reach forward. So reach down, back, and then forward. You got the next one? Down, back, and then forward. Keeping that back flat as you can and driving that chest towards the knee. This next one is just gonna be heel to toe walk, really working through the ankles. All you're gonna have the athlete do is drive down, really cock that ankle up as high as you possibly can, roll through it, then push up as hard as you possibly can. Short mini steps. You really focus on really flexing through the ankles and extending all the way down 10 yards. Coming back, we're just gonna do a reverse hip circle walk. So really what I'm wanting the athlete to do is be able to come from here, keep a static position, rotate that leg back as high as they can, really getting those hips loose. I don't want you necessarily opening up. I want the athlete keeping it square forward, being able to rotate those hips all the way back. From here, we're gonna move into a bodyweight squat. So really what I'm looking for the athlete to do is be able to interlace the hands, the fingers behind the head. I want them to pull their elbows back behind their ears and go ahead and keep their torso upright as they sink down into a squat. Really focus on the stretch here as opposed to just an exercise. I really want you focusing on trying to drop the hips right between the heels, keeping that torso upright. Hips back in an anterior pelvic tilt and sitting down into it every single time. We're gonna go 10 of those. This next one we're gonna move into is going to be a single leg toe touch. So essentially what I want is I want the athlete to stand tall, opposite hand is overhead, then the opposite foot that's on the ground. From here, what I want the athlete to do is completely sink down. I don't want them just bending at the hip, I want them to completely sink down, touch the toe, come all the way back overhead. We're gonna go 5 on one side, we're gonna switch sides, and then go 5 on the other. All the way up and down. This next year, we're gonna get a little bit more dynamic. I wanna go low lateral shuffle. So we're gonna do 2 series of lateral shuffles here. One is gonna be focusing on how low we can go. So what I often tell my athletes is I want a wide stance. I want you dropping your hips below your knees. What that's gonna look like is here, and I want them performing a lateral shuffle all the way down. You never want your feet to collapse inside your shoulders. You wanna keep them out, short and choppy, the entire way. We're gonna go 10 yards down, and same thing, 10 yards back. After they perform that lateral shuffle, I want one more dynamic and more with power. So what they're gonna perform is a little bit standing more upright this time. I want them pushing off this outside leg and really trying to drive out as fast as they can. So look like this. This next one is just gonna be a classic karaoke shuffle. What I look at here for this is not just a swivel at the hips, just going through the motion. I really want the athlete to pick this knee up and place it down right there and really snap that down as they cross over. Sort of like this, here we go. And then same thing coming back 10 yards. This next drill is going to be backwards reach run coupled with straight leg pulling. So what I'm looking for is a little bit more dynamic stretch here as we back pedal. So it's going to look like this. Coupled with straight leg pulling. This is very important for firing those glutes as we go and move into the actual sprint cycle. This next one is just gonna be a regular back pedal coupled with a regular sprint. So what I tell my athletes, I might do this 1 anywhere up to 5 times. And I ask them to give me a little bit more juice each and every time, give me a little bit more effort. So if you think about the first one being 60%, let's move up 70, 80, 90, all the way up to 100. It just looks like this. Last but not least, we're just gonna get down to the ground. Last two things that we have. First one is gonna be a fire hydrant. I do these two separate ways. The first one, I want them to essentially come up and pause for 5 seconds. I'm sorry, they're gonna come up 5 times and pause for 1 second. Come up, pause, come up, pause. After they're done the 5 with a pause, they're gonna go 5 fluid. It's gonna look like this. And then repeat the same thing on the other side. Then to finish it off, we're just gonna go hip circles. So what I'm looking for is they're gonna go 5 with a pause, press that leg all the way back as high as they can, circle it around, as big a circle as you possibly can. Press it up high, really focus on squeezing the glute here, and then drive out. 5 with a pause, and then 5 fluid. Boom. And that is the sprinter's warm up for Overtime Athletes. Now I'm sweating my ass off and it's hot here. I'll catch you guys next time. Yo, what's going on, fellas? Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in getting faster as an athlete, go ahead and click my advanced series right here, where I provide you with free lessons to make you become faster. I'll see you inside.